Hey girls and gals, welcome back to my channel. My name is Taylor and today's video is going to be my June TBR. I'm very excited for not just the books that I'm going to read in June, but also just June as a whole. It's Pride Month, it's also my birthday month, so definitely a party all month long. It's historically normally like a very good month for me. I really enjoy the month, and also I just generally tend to read really good books in June. I also, I have a tendency to save all of the books that I'm like most looking forward to in June. Also just like rereading favorite books for me. So always a good reading month in June. Hopefully, knock on wood, I'm not jinxing myself this year, but I'm very, very excited. A lot of really good books are coming out this month. Definitely check out, I don't know if it'll be the video before this one or after, but I do have a ton of really anticipated releases that come out in June. Most of those I am going to try to read in June. So there is quite a bit of overlap. I'm not going to rehash those books, but I will be trying to read a lot of those new releases. So definitely check that video out. Lots of fantasy, some horror, comedy, just like a lot of very interesting books as a whole. So definitely I want to read all of those. Sometimes a book will come out in a certain month and I'll know like when I want to read it. I'll like save it for October or like just a different season than the one it came out in. However, there are some books that come out and I feel like they're perfect for that month. That's how I feel about my June anticipated releases, so definitely check out that video if you haven't already, because all of those are going to be on my TBR. I'll briefly talk about nonfiction before I get into fiction, because in May I was not anticipating on reading as much nonfiction as I did, but about 50% of what I read in May was nonfiction. I was really in a nonfiction mood and I'm kind of still feeling that going into June, so I think I'll just keep on reading as much nonfiction as I can. The ones that I have from my library that I would like to get to sooner rather than later, and especially in June, I feel like they're very seasonal. The first one is going to be Transgender History by Susan Stryker. This is the roots of today's revolution. Don't know if you can tell by my whole outfit and being today, I do love the color palette on this one. But I saw this at the library and decided to pick it up because I think it is very relevant to just be very knowledgeable and to kind of understand the histories of different revolutions and social movements, especially in terms of being a transgender ally, especially when there are so many laws trying to be being passed right now. It's the least I can do as a cis person to not only keep trying to fight for those laws to not be laws anymore and make sure that there's not transgender discrimination in our society, but just also be educated on history. I don't know as much about queer history as I really should. A lot of that is based on, you know, school. It's not really something you're taught in school. However, the library is free. You can keep learning your whole life long. So I'm interested in picking this up. This says it's a guide to American transgender history since the 19th century. It covers the major movements, writings, and events that shaped today's gender revolution. The author of this one, I also would like to point out, because I do think that's important for nonfiction, especially when it's nonfiction about particular subjects, like who's writing it. So the author, Susan Stryker, is an associate professor of gender and women's studies at the University of Arizona. She's a founding co-editor of TS2, a Transgender Studies Quarterly, and she's also won a Lambda Literary Award and an Emmy Award for different works of hers. So yes, I am intrigued by this one, and hopefully I'll learn a little bit more about queer history during Pride Month. Another nonfiction book that I am super excited to pick up this month would be Greedy Notes from a Bisexual Who Wants Too Much by Jen Winston. This is kind of a series of, I think, essays, vignettes. It's a biography. I have followed Jen Winston on Instagram for a while. I've been meaning to pick this book up. I'm very excited to pick it up. It definitely speaks to me. But yeah, I'm very interested. I think this one is definitely going to be a lot more conversational than the last nonfiction book that I was talking about. And this kind of takes us through Winston's relatable journey of self-discovery with shrewd wit and refreshing candor. Greedy offers an intimate look at gender, sexuality, memes, DMs, scams, threesomes, ghosting, and other realities of modern love. Winston makes mistakes, so we don't have to, reminding us that queerness is about so much more than who you sleep with. It's about truth, community, and defining yourself on your own terms. So Greedy is your laugh out loud, provocative companion for imagining the world as it could be. So very intrigued. I definitely think that even though I am in a nonfiction mood, I don't know really what nonfiction mood I'm in. So definitely having one that's like more of a history, straight-laced, like very factual nonfiction, and then more of a memoir, kind of a comedic social commentary one. I think these will be really good books. Now for fiction, just in the best interests of keeping my TBR pretty short and sweet, because I'm a mood reader, I don't want to go over like 20 books and only get to like 3 of them in the month, but I do have 2 that I want to make sure that I read before the end of June, and they're both fantasy. I really love reading fantasy in the summer, but the first book that I absolutely must pick up in June, I'm so excited to pick up in June, is going to be A Cruel and Fated Light by Ashley Shuttleworth. This is book 2 in the Hollow Star saga. The first book came out in 2020. It was A Dark and Hollow Star. I absolutely love this series. I've only read book 1, but I'm very, very excited to get into book 2. It is a very, very queer urban fantasy story, and I'm not really sure where book 2 is gonna go, because a lot of what happened in book 1 got wrapped up in book 1, obviously leaving things open for a bigger conflict in book 2. It's very massive. I'm very excited. Small synopsis of book 1. We have a group of 4 Fae teenagers who must band together and figure out who or what is killing Ironborn Fae. All 4 of our main characters are queer. This is just a very casually queer story as well. There's so much representation in terms of world building and different characters, and I just really love this series. It's just a whole lot of fun. It definitely kind of straddles like that space between YA and new adult, I would say, very well. And it's just, if you like Cassandra Clare, if you like Sarah J Maas, if you like that sort of urban fantasy, but you're looking for a fresh new take on it, highly recommend this series. Can't wait to dive into book 2. This is over 600 pages, so I'm going to be spending a lot of time with my favorite queer Fae teens this month, and I'm not complaining. And then next up on my TBR, a pretty new release as well. Both the fiction books that I talked about came out in May, and that is going to be Her Majesty's Royal Coven by Juno Dawson. This is a book, it's the first book in the Her Majesty's Royal Coven series, and it follows witches. I'm very excited for it. Love a good witch book, love a good fantasy book. This really blends both. We have Her Majesty's Royal Coven, which was established by Queen Elizabeth I as a covert government department, and we're following 4 young girls who are in this organization, who have different ideas of how the organization should, I believe, help the world, get involved with different world conflicts, and kind of grow and move forward as an organization of witches. So this is a book that one of my favorite authors, Samantha Shannon, has blurbed, talked about, so honestly I'm going to take that as a very good sign. I love Samantha Shannon's work, so if she loves this book, I have very high expectations for it as well. So I'm very much looking forward. I don't know if this is historical fantasy or contemporary fantasy. I know it's set in our world with those magical elements, but I'm very excited to dive into this one. Juno Dawson is a new author for me, and I'm really excited to check out this book. There you have it. I'm keeping the TBR very short, very sweet. I know I'm just going to be flooded by so many book recommendations for Pride, as well as just new releases. It's a very good month for that. So I'm keeping my options open. I definitely have a lot of books that I have on hold through my library, so we'll see which ones come into me. But if you have any recommendations for books, definitely leave them down below, especially if it's any sort of speculative fiction, horror, fantasy, sci-fi, any sort of queer speculative fiction. Leave them down below. That's definitely like what I want to read this month. So yes, if you enjoyed this video, please be sure to give this video a thumbs up. I am going to be trying to vlog throughout the whole entire month of June, just because I have so many books that I am very much looking forward to reading. So definitely subscribe to check out some more content from me. Stay safe, stay spooky, and I'll see y'all in the next one. Bye!